it's a very bad thing to add 3.3 trillion to the debt over 10 years. And the response to that is that the growth will generate enough income and that the tariffs will generate enough income to offset the revenue loss from the tax cuts. I'm doubtful about that.
Speaking at a rally in Iowa yesterday, the US president was enjoying his win.
There could be no better birthday present for America than the phenomenal victory we achieved just hours ago when Congress passed the one big, beautiful bill to make America great again. Right? Deport the illegals and slash hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud, and that's what we're doing. With this bill, every major promise I made to the people of Iowa in 2024 became a promise kept.
But is it really a win for the American people? Let's hear from Irwin Stelzer, who's director of the Hudson Institute's Economic Policy Studies Group and who writes in the Sunday Times. Good afternoon to you, Irwin.
Good afternoon. John Yeomans is a tough act to follow.
He's very smart, but I'm sure you're up to the job. I feel very confident. It's interesting, isn't it, hearing Trump in his pomp there. He has prevailed. A lot of people thought he wouldn't. He is master of all he surveys, isn't he?
Pretty much. I mean, that was a phenomenal political victory to take a House, both the House and the Senate, with almost no room for error, a single bad voter, and get a major policy statement passed is a phenomenal political achievement. Whether it's a phenomenal economic achievement is another matter.
Well, let's come on to the economics of this then, because, low taxes of this sort have been an article of faith for Republicans for so long. Will they work, do you think, in terms of stimulating the economy?
They will work. The question is by how much. There's no question that lower taxes stimulate growth and that the lower taxes contained in this bill will some of the lower taxes contained in this bill will stimulate growth. We don't know by how much, and we don't know if that offsets the tax cuts when it comes to total revenue. But basically, those are a good thing.
Well, I mean, accompanying the tax cuts, there are obviously these very swinging welfare cuts. I mean, cuts to Medicaid, which, I'm sure listeners are familiar, will deprive millions of low-income and disabled Americans of their health care. Millions of low-income recipients of SNAP will be deprived of benefits of help with food costs. Does this bill risk tipping millions into deprivation?
I don't think so. I mean, one of the problems is that the headlines about taking a lot of people out of Medicaid don't reflect the fact that the bill says that healthy people on Medicaid must be seeking a job in order to get the benefits. That's a pretty good thing. I think you guys are experimenting with something like that, or should be.
Well, now there's been a bit of a U-turn.
Yeah, yes, I follow that too. But so I think that the danger to people receiving Medicaid is overstated. Now, it is true that people who've entered the country illegally will also be deprived of benefits, but I don't know how you do benefits that will benefit anybody who happens to get into the United States. So I think that's been overstated. On the other hand, I think the SNAP program, which essentially bolsters the food budgets of poor people, has been cut. And I think the hope that the states will fill the gap is a hope at the moment, and we'll just have to see.
And I suppose one of the other big worries economically is about debt, because it will add $3.3 trillion to the deficit between now and 2034. There are worries that, that will, that the whole thing will sort of stimulate this kind of sugar rush, but then there'll be a crash. Do you think those fears are valid?
Well, first of all, it's a very bad thing to add 3.3 trillion to the debt over 10 years. And the response to that is that the growth will generate enough income and that the tariffs will generate enough income to offset the revenue loss from the tax cuts. I'm doubtful about that. And certainly I think one of the major failings of this bill is that it adds to the deficit rather than reducing the deficit, which is badly needed. Now, the question of when we'll pay the piper, Jamie Dimon, probably the most influential banker in the country, gives us 6 weeks to 6 years. So
Right.
stay tuned.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, it could be someone else's problem, couldn't it? It could be after Trump leaves office. But I mean, if this agenda works, do you think it will prove a model for other countries? You know, if, say, Labour gets kicked out of power here, the right wing here, and, you know, in other countries in Europe, going to look at this and try and replicate it?
I think it's going to be difficult because the hatred of Trump is so
Intense.
tremendous. It's intense. That's a very good word. Thank you. Trump derangement syndrome. That even conservative politicians won't say, oh boy, look, we're going to do to Britain what we did for what Trump did to America. I think that if it works, that it gets more people into work in order to get benefits. There will be some modeling of this, but I'm doubtful. I just don't think that. I don't think you can transfer a lot of these policies from one country to another. You'll get some benefit, but not a lot.
Interesting. Irwin Stelzer, thanks very much for joining us. Irwin obviously writes for the Sunday Times and is also a director of the Hudson Institute's Economic Policy Studies Group. So fascinating to hear your thoughts there.
This is the vote tally card. We're going to frame this one, okay? 218, 214. I would sum it up with one word. It's belief. Okay, we had a vision for what we wanted to do as a group. We believed in the election cycle last fall that we were going to be given this great blessing of unified government, that we would have the White House and the Senate and the House aligned, in alignment, unified government. And we did not want to waste that opportunity because we understand the history that comes along with it, the opportunity that we can do for the country, and we believe that we would have that chance. And then I believe in the people that are standing here behind me. I believe in this group, every single one of them individually. Some of them are more fun to deal with than others, you know. I mean that with the greatest level of respect. I love every single one of my colleagues. You know, even the ones I got to spend the more time with, right? Because everybody's here, their motive is right, their heart is right. They're trying to do right for their constituents. They're trying to serve the greatest nation in the history of the world that we're going to celebrate tomorrow. We don't take that lightly.
There will be monthly job reports. We'll see what happens with inflation. We'll see what happens with home ownership, job starts. If cutting $1 trillion out of Medicaid is what we call progress, I'd like to see what failure is, because that is what we have just seen happen. And for anybody to say the impact is going to be minuscule, you must not know how much $1 trillion is.
There have to be consequences to these votes, and we have to decide if this is just a joke or just for TV, or if this is our real lives. And I hope people vote like it's our real lives.
No, I think when America understands that things like if you're able to work, you ought to work, and we need to clear up some of the fraudulent behavior so that it provides for those single moms with 2 kids that are maybe just getting by, and it doesn't collapse the system. The least amongst us is a biblical reference that Jesus made, and I kind of dig it.
You know, if you think about like who sort of helped them get to where they are right now, when you think about MAGA, you think about the majority that they have, they represent a lot of lower income people. I see them all the time in the DFW area. They live in Fort Worth, in Dallas. A lot of them live in the surrounding counties, and they're going to be destitute, and they're not going to be able to have their Medicaid. They're also not going to be able to have some of the benefits that the Affordable Care act was able to bring to their families. And so to me, they have pulled the rug from up under some of the very same people that wear these MAGA hats. They ought to take those damn MAGA hats and throw them in the dumpster, because they are going to be in a much tougher situation than they're in right now.
Winning is caving? Well, if winning is caving, then I guess we caved.
Mr. Chairman, can you tell us what kind of deal, what kind of concessions were made?
No, just that when you put them all together into the package, it was a much better package than the Senate package alone, or what would have come back from the Senate if we had sent it over to the Senate. And remember, this process has been going on since January. When we started, what was on the table was $300 billion in spending reduction. We, by holding to what the Freedom Caucus has done for the last 10 years, which is make deficit reduction a primary motive, we achieved $1.5 trillion, and that doesn't include the agreements we came to last night that will further reduce spending outside the framework of the bill.